Tomorrow night, an extremely wounded All Black team that have faced considerable criticism, almost criticism for cowardice from other All Blacks, past All Blacks, after their performance against the Springboks, who I have to say played one of the great second halves of rugby I've ever seen. But anyhow, and an under pressure coaching team will have the chance to redeem themselves to a good extent by smashing the Aussies at Eden Park, as they traditionally do. In fact, I looked at some statistics at this before I was going to interview our next guest. And the last time the Australians won at Eden Park was 1986. The last time they held the Bledisloe Cup was 2002. And I don't even know if this century, oh yes, the start of the century, about 2002, they actually won a game the last time they won a game in New Zealand. But all of that will be on the line tomorrow. One of the great Wallaby players of an era that really rejuvenated rugby, and the Bledisloe Cup in particular, is our next guest. Simon Poidevin played Test football from 1980, I think, to 1991. He was part of that last Wallaby team under Alan Jones, ironically, that beat New Zealand at Eden Park in 1986. They won the series 2-1. They would then go on and then be at the start of the golden 90s, the golden era of Australian rugby in the 1990s, where they won the World Cup in both 1991 and in 1999. And there were some amazing Test matches that will be live in the memory forever, and even after we're gone, will be replayed countlessly, those particular contests. He was very much a part of that at the rejuvenation of Australian rugby when he first started Test rugby, I think in 1980. He left when they were the world champions. He is a considerate, intelligent, and insightful commentator on matters rugby, and he joins us now, Simon Poidevin. Simon, very much welcome to the show. So great to have you on. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Michael. That's an extraordinary introduction, mate. It's very, very apt for a forward, probably not apt for a back.
Good on you. Listen, you lived in you were at the start of that sort of golden Wallabies era. You were in that sort of transition during the 80s and then the explosion in the 90s. Do you see anything similar in the current Wallaby setup that gives you any hope of similar rejuvenation?
Yeah, I think Australia has stood up this year, and there's been a major turn in how we're playing. Just the belief in the side. Joe Smith's done a fantastic job bringing in Cronny's been a master stroke, because our Achilles heel through all those decades you sort of talked about, the scrum's been an Achilles heel for us out there. We've really turned the corner there, and when you're sort of going head to head with the All Blacks and the Springboks in particular, if scrum isn't working, then you're in trouble. So thank you, Cronny, for that. But we've fixed the basics. We've got, I think, more players wanting to come back and play in Australia rather than sort of play overseas. That's a big plus as well, although you're obviously seeing some players going away for sabbaticals, as New Zealand is sort of seeing as well. But, I always sort of say that New Zealanders don't appreciate the difference between Australia and New Zealand from the point of view of sport. AFL league here just dominate. Rugby's got to be winning to actually get themselves a place in the public heart. And now the Wallabies about winning, then the supporters are coming out of the bushes.
Yeah, you also had the Lions tour this year, which was a magnificent financial windfall for Australian rugby, which has, as you say, experienced a number of years in the doldrums. Can I ask you, is there? I mean, there's traditionally been a number of rugby players who will leave the game and then join league because, as you say, it's got a bigger status and I guess the money's there as well. There is a talk about Marky Mark coming back, I think, from league to rugby. And Joseph Suaalii, obviously, who's a bit of a star, has done exactly the same thing. Is it heading the other way now, Simon, or is it just give and take?
No, I think that there's definitely a change happening there. And, you mentioned the Lions Tour. I think the Lions Tour makes the Australian public aware going, like, who's this army of people hitting this country? Who are all these people? Why are they so excited about this team called the Lions? And it becomes infectious that the publicity around rugby just goes through the roof. And it was such a fantastic series too that
Mm.
it really caught the public's attention. And then when people realise you got the best players from four countries in the Northern Hemisphere playing one country, that's a pretty big challenge. And our guys stood up, and that's really good. So I think that our big upside is we're a global sport. We've just got to continue to sort of drive that home, and that's where AFL can't compete. That's where Rugby League can compete in a minor sort of way. My son is playing for the US Eagles now, and they've just qualified for the World Cup here in 2027. Now, Rugby League carry on about Las Vegas every year out there. Like it's a sugar hit. There's a big rugby population in the US, and they've just got to continue to develop that and develop them into being a big nation out there. Then when you've got a global game, you've got a big advantage.
Yes, yes, indeed. And of course, I forgot about the fact that you're hosting the World Cup. It's next year, isn't it? Is it just
2027,
you?
yeah.
We're not doing any of it. It's just all going to be contained on the Australian continent, is it?
No, we're getting the Kiwis to come across and provide some services here, but no, you're not getting anything at all.
Good on you. Listen, tomorrow I have to say the All Black team that was announced is stronger, very much stronger, I think, for a number of reasons than the team they put out against South Africa. You, on the other hand, you're going to be weaker, aren't you? Because you've had a number of injuries to some of your key players.
Yeah, we have, but South Africa haven't done us any favours at all. That
No.
was a phenomenal performance, and just sometimes that just happens, and we're seeing scores blow out where the Wallabies have gapped the All Blacks, and then they sort of got us back. They got us back in Melbourne. They didn't get us back in Perth a few years back when Checker was coaching the side out there, but the box just gapped them. And I've said over here this week that there's no harder markers in the world than the New Zealand public and New Zealand press. And so, I've seen this happen to the All Blacks before. They are going to come out red hot at Eden Park, and it's going to be a phenomenal challenge for Australia to sort of win that game, especially without, I would have felt more comfortable with having Will Skelton there as well. But
Yeah.
I think we've picked a good side, and I'm really happy that Lukan Salakaia-Lotto has eventually got himself into the Test team after a bit of an absence out there, because he's a sort of abrasive, big athletic player you need against that New Zealand All Black pack.
Yes. Traditionally, Australia, when you've had a pack that can match the All Blacks, not necessarily better, but match them, then you've won your Test matches because your backs are perhaps a little better and more expressive. Um, Tomorrow, there is a suggestion that again you've got that back line, despite a couple of your world class players being injured for this particular game. Is that perception correct or not? Do you think?
No, I think that's incorrect. It's a pretty young, inexperienced back line. Corey Till's second test. He didn't have a great test against Argentina, so he's a phenomenal player. But playing test match rugby in front of massive crowds is a bit different from playing World Sevens tournaments. Even though World Sevens is just a phenomenal game. Harry Potters hasn't played many games at all for Australia.
Mm.
Max Jorgensen hasn't really played fullback. And Max is an absolute phenomenal athlete, but he's not a very tall sort of player out there. So you can sort of see that Bowden Barrett and co will be putting a lot of high balls up to the Australian back three.
And you've got the veteran first 5'8". Well, he's been at wing, utility, sent overseas in shame, back now. Played a season for the Crusaders this year. James O'Connor playing at 10. Is that because Australia doesn't have any decent first 5'8"s? I mean, I'm not being nasty, but that's pretty much a stopgap selection, isn't it?
No, I think it's actually very clever. It's a very clever selection. We've got three younger fly halves out there who just haven't got the worldly experience. But Bowden Barrett's played a phenomenal number of Test matches.
Yeah, yeah.
And so James O'Connor, I think, is a great choice to go out at Eden Park. He's played very well in the Super Rugby for the Crusaders over
Crusaders,
there.
yeah.
He knows the grounds, he knows the players. And when he came on against Argentina in Sydney, it was like someone flicked a switch, and it was right. Okay, let's go. Of course, we were struggling in our attack, and he's got the ability to take the ball to the line and keep opposing defences guessing. So I really like that selection.
Okay, all right. This chap called Suaalii, Joseph Okoso Suaalii, he is portrayed or being paraded, certainly by the Sydney press, as being something of a superstar. I guess we'll find out tomorrow, because Eden Park, you don't get much more of a cauldron than that. Do you expect him to become your game's new superstar?